Hello and welcome to a new episode at Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, Ahmed Assaf, and today we have an amazing guest, Kelly Keefe. How are you, Kelly?
Doing great. How are you?
All good. Kelly is a specialist as a children coach and a mom. So today, our episode is directed to the parents and the necessity of having a coach for children and knowing lots of insights from you, Kelly. So if I would love to start with parents always ask, how can I find the creativity in my children? Or how can I find the skills? Or how could I know how can I be more interactive and know what do they really want in their life, in their early life?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I love seeing that as parents, there's the ability to continue to remember we're here to support the child and growing into who they're here to be.
Hmm.
So continuing to allow different options and different space to see the curiosities of the child of where it goes to. And this is something that I've been impressed to see that many parents are choosing to limit screen time still in those formative years to really support in the space of finding what is the natural calling to the child. Like I know like my nephew, we became surprised that he began to love creating dynamics of cleaning. And so we really fueled into that and really found ways of, okay, how can we keep building that out and ask him, what else would you like? Well, how else would the room look? And continuing to build these spaces without any judgments, without any creating where they're supposed to go or what they're supposed to be interested at any given age, but rather just feeding their curiosities and allowing for that to continue to grow. Because our imagination is the precipice of how we create in the world. So in those formative years, allowing the space for the imagination to really be cultivated without any judgment or trying to suppress it in any way can really foster that security and safety in them to utilize and trust their imagination.
Hmm. And I'm sure through your experience and through your career that you found lots of I want to say like lids on the top of the children that they couldn't express that. And as you said, they're suppressing that, maybe because of the bullying at school or because of the things that the environment that they are at. So here is the necessity and the necessity of the parents to conquer our children and their children and protect them from that point and impress the confidence in that. So is there a specific strategies to follow in those certain cases?
Yeah, it's so natural for us to want to think to shield our children and to make them strong,
Hmm.
you and it's actually one of the strongest ways for us to support our children is a little bit of the opposite in really supporting from the beginning, supporting them and understanding that emotions are okay and they're safe. And it's beginning to support them in understanding how to be able to name the emotions, really fostering this strong emotional intelligence
Hmm.
from the very beginning. So that way, when there is a dynamic of, let's say, bullying, I mean, these children, bless them for growing up in a space of technology and social media where we thought we had it, rough. Like, whew, these kids are warriors. But to be able to begin to, from the very young age, support them in understanding how can we identify what is the emotion at play and being able to say how am I feeling that in my body and how do we process and be with that, and then as parents be able to be there with them to not try to fix it but rather to be there with them through it and say I can support you through this, to be able to find the way of how can they continue to grow and navigate through it. Of course, providing options and things, and if there's a serious situation, stepping in. But again, it's this continuation of raising and developing a very sovereign being. A technique that I've used in working with children and also teaching in the UN, so it's a full range of a technique where it's simple. It's called the bid technique.
Hmm.
First, breathe. When there's a lot of emotions or feeling overwhelmed, just taking nice, deep belly breaths So leading, say, your child's overwhelmed or they just came home, there's a disciplinary situation, whatever it may be. As a collective, taking deep breaths, resetting the nervous system with 3 deep breaths to be able to find a sense of calm and centeredness. I identify what are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? What's happening? How did we get to where we are? And then D is discovery, being able to discover where to from here, or what can be done in this moment for there to be a sense of centering and balance and feeling better. Now, I use better as again, as parents, there's that space where we want to be mindful that there's a balance of us saying, okay, I'm just going to come in and make everything better. Where can we ask the child, what do you need right now to be able to feel more supported or to feel more comfortable? Insert the word here. Starting to train our children of how to be able to get clear of what are their needs in a certain dynamic and feeling comfortable and safe to express their needs. Because that is going to, again, it's that formative developmental space where we're teaching them at a subconscious level in these formative years that it's safe to be able to identify our needs and to vocalize them, and that they will be heard and people will do their best to support in those needs being met. And if it's something that can't be met, explaining it to them in a very rational space, because again, that's life training as well.
Yeah, so this is really needs lots of attention from the parents to just be following that step by step. And if we talk about the intention and the visualization, because those two huge keywords are like essential for a child to be creative. And if we could develop, how could we treat that? And how could we just interact with their intention or maybe teach them their intention, how to be intentional? And how could we also develop, because they have huge visualization, huge imagination, but how could we treat that and develop it to be more interactive and being something physical?
Yeah. Something that one of my favorite things about kids, and there's a whole lot, is they really get it. Where when we speak to children, especially once we start hitting age 6, 7, as we're hitting more of their personalities really come to, and they're stepping out into the world, they're trying to be fiercely independent, and we're like, listen, slow your roll. But they're really fully developed and they want to take the world ablaze. When we speak to them, really from a space of you are a little human growing, and when I say little, meaning small, you are a small human that has a full operating system and a huge soul. And when we look at the level of their understanding, especially of concepts of creativity, intention, and all of these things, that is closer to our spiritual principles.
Exactly.
In many ways, they have the ability to understand even better than adults because they're still close to source of where they came from. And
Mhm.
there's not as many jaded situations and filters and skepticism that's been placed on them. So I have found speaking with them pretty matter of factly, but bringing a sense of gamification in if needed, or bringing in cool. Hey, do you want to try something really cool? Okay. So we're about to start this game, but what would we want to happen in it? How would we want this to happen? Let's set an intention of how we would like this to go. And then they're just like, oh, okay. So it's a space for us to bring a lightness to it. If this is just what we do. And if they start to ask questions, explaining it. And this is where, as parents, it's so important that the work is happening simultaneous as the child, because they're going to ask questions. They're going to get curious, and to be able to answer, to be able to support them. It's not that there needs to be a explanation down to a quantum physics level,
Mhm.
but being able to be embodying living that way as, as an adult, as the parent in the house, to be able to articulate it to the child in a way that they can understand. They understand a lot more than we give them credit for.
That's what I was going to ask you is because especially that thing that we've been living in three different planes of understanding or spiritual beings. We have the mind, and intellectual mind, and we have the body. So when do you think, from your experience, is when the best time to explain that to them and let them start understanding themselves?
Yeah. That's something where I have found it's not something to be forced. And again, where there's that expansion as an adult and an authoritative and a steward of these little big souls and little bodies, where as we can continue to embody it more and more, as we know, and you can read anywhere, children learn the most by observation
Oh,
and by what's happening in the household as is. So the more that we can be embodying that and welcoming in that essence of things
mhm,
there, and when questions come or there's a curiosity at play, maybe there is and we never want to force anything on any because that's just going to cause later in life they're going to rebel and go the other way. I mean, it's just human nature where we look at that. But maybe if there's, say, a meditation practice in somebody's home, cool, mommy, daddy, auntie, uncle, insert, I want to honor whatever, whoever is raising little ones, to is going to be going in and meditating. And there's a pillow there. If you ever want to meditate, if you ever want to, get in touch with that, why do you meditate? Oh, it's to support me in touching it with my soul level. What do you mean? Oh, well, where you came from before here, you came from mommy and daddy, but and just a very natural
mhm,
space where again it brings us back to the more that we can understand that within our own being, it makes it simpler to just naturally allow it to come into conversation. Where if we were to sit down, a little one say, so listen, over dinner, I want to start to explain to you there's three different bodies in us because when we look at the developmental season of children, they're very literal for a very long time. So to try to explain such a complex, anomaly to a child that way, that could cause a lot of confusion and disassociation within them.
mhm,
But rather, the more we can just keep it matter of fact and just, cool, it's just what it is. I'm connected with my soul and it's a part of you and this and that. Then that can allow them to just be, oh, okay, that's just how it is.
mhm. Perfect. So once they're born and they have, so somehow they don't have a conscious mind, they only have the subconscious mind, and everything is impressing directly to that subconscious mind. So that's the period, is like for the first 2 years or 3 years, is start impressing in that subconscious mind what are the real good habits in their life. And that's the responsibility of the parents. And then part of it, it's a responsibility of the school. But if we look about the concepts, and one of the main concepts, because this is why we're born somehow, is always be serving. This is the concept of ABS. And this is why we are born, is to serve and leaving everyone with the impression of increase. So if you could tell me, elaborate more on that and tell us like the strategies to impress that our children.
Yeah. So, one, I love that we're bringing up the conversation of the subconscious mind and how important this is
Yes.
because as adults, so again, as a listener, that reminder of starting with us, the subconscious mind is running 80 to 90% of our day-to-day lives. The the repeated thought forms that we're having, the habits that we have, or anything, the way we respond or maybe not respond and react to certain things,
Yes.
that's all coming from the subconscious mind that was formulated as a child. Now, fortunately, we have many techniques and tools now that we can begin to rewire ourselves so we can show up different in our own lives. And I 10 out of 10 recommend that for everybody. Because again, the more we can do our inner work as the adults and the stewards of these little humans, the more we're creating that environment that it is the
Mhm.
natural state of being. And they can be learning by example of that as well. But when we're looking at these formative years, 0 to 3, we look at the framework, and then it's still really 0 to 7 are the most foundational. And then it's really still being shaped. I like to look at it as a switchboard. The subconscious mind is a switchboard where you go in and say, okay, that habit's on, that one's on, this belief is off, this is there. We're still forming the initial switchboard until age 11. So, really looking at how do we want this child to be at a character form? Again, we're not here to tell them who they're here to be or what they're here
Exactly.
to do. We're here to help them grow. So in those first years, okay, stimulating the mind. Do we want to support in music and multisensory things to keep them captivated, to stimulate the mind and the intellectuality, showing them love, giving lots of hugs and nurturing and being able to give that physical touch. Thinking of the five love languages, when we can look at, and if no one's familiar with it, just do a quick search. There's different ways that we all receive love and we give love that can let people know that we're affirmed. So if you're having any troubles in your own relationships, sometimes it's simple of looking at what's my top love language and what is somebody else's, and you might be communicating to one another and trying to give or receive love in a way that you're simply not meeting. But we don't know what that's going to be for the child at a young age until we begin to try these different things and giving them love in all these different ways so that they're being built in this foundational space of I am loved. There's a deep presence here. Finding things that, I always, music is the first gift I give any child, a music box or a sound box or something that starts to stimulate the sound and frequency. And sound and music is directly correlated with energy, which is directly correlated with spirituality and God. So for me, that is a way that begin to formulate into that foundation for a child of the stimulations and the curiosities. Musical instruments around. Again, I'm using my own personal favorites of
Mhm.
putting things in the hands of children that allow them to play with the creativity, continuing to fuel in these formative years that it's safe. It is safe to feel what you feel. It is safe to explore. It is safe to whatever it is that they want to go and explore. Obviously, nothing dangerous of being a steward of them of that. And one thing I've found, it's a very easy thing to do, where remember everything we're saying and doing is forming them. And as any parent or authoritative person in a child's life knows, the word no is said quite a bit, especially as they start moving. No, don't touch that. No, don't do that. No. And again, rightfully so, because they're a little human that we're responsible for. But if we can begin to counteract that with yeses as well, it can support the mind in them building at the same time a mindset of there are yeses in the world and building that confidence. I do this with infants, where like when I'm with them, just yes, 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 yes. And they love it because it's a positive energy and it's just fun. And they can feel this energy just exuding of like, oh, this feels good. It's positive. It's yes. So it's beaming this energy of positivity and putting into their mind, yes, 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 yes. And it's supporting to counterbalance all of the no's that are needed. And it's a really fun way to connect with them in a really positive energy stream.
But sometimes there is a no. There should be a no. So you'll say yes for something and no for something at the same time to remove that negativity from the no. That's what you mean by that.
Yeah, and meaning that because when we're looking at the span over the entirety,
Mm-hmm.
so through the day to day, and then just in life, there's of course there are no's. When saying the yes, 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 that is a 15-second or 30-second interaction
Mm-hmm.
with child. You're with the say, we're going to stay with the newborn in this moment. And it's really more in those formative years because once they're old enough and they're scurrying around, you're, tossing them up and down and playing, oh, yes, 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 yes. It is going into their brain and their system, and it's not a direct correlation to something that they're trying to do or something they're asking for or anything of that. It's simply within their operating system that's getting wired in to help counterbalance the necessary day-to-day part of saying, no, don't touch that. No, you can't eat ice cream for the third time today. No, we can't do that. All of the things that are imperative as parents to give that space. It's the balancing out within their subconscious because it does impact. It's needed. We need it as humans, functioning humans. And I've worked with many adults as well to see when there's the limitations that we can be placing on ourselves, to see how much of an impact those micro moments as a child did have within developing the switchboard, which are needed. No one's done anything wrong. It's just the way child psychology is developing that impacts us as adults. So we look at what can we do to support, counterbalance it, so there's less to, rewire as adults.
And here's the power of not teaching them because they already know the necessity of serving because by default they come to this world as a factory settings. It's like the essence of who we are is serving, loving, forgiveness. And we need that in every daily life as human beings at any stage of our life. Once we are as a parents is leading as this by example, and the children must be just follow that by default. And if we go back to the limited beliefs, if we talk about the fear, because at certain age, if we did not understand the fear and we did not know how to treat the fear, it will grow with us. So how could we just explain to our children about the fear and how to be friendly with the fear and how to make this shift in relationship with the fear to
Yeah,
overcome?
yeah. So us playing with the space of reframing what emotions are for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Again, making us being able to look at it from a space of, rather than sadness or fear or anger or joy or anything, being anything more than a friend
Mm-hmm.
and someone who's coming by and sharing something, we can bring it there or saying it's just energy, emotion. Let's look at what's here. We can begin to shift the relationship to it and supporting them and begin to separate from it. Now, live time, when something is coming up for a child, again, I would bring back the bid technique that we talked about, help them breathe. Okay, let's take a couple of nice deep breaths here. And tell me, how are you feeling? Where do you feel it in your body? And if they can't tell you, where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel it in your shoulders? Do you feel it in your toes? And again, we can support them in feeling that, bringing it back to everything's okay. You can add a playfulness to it with them, but support them in starting to be able to identify it. And then being able to say, okay, well, let's see what that's about. Okay, so you're feeling some fear in your belly. Okay. Why are you feeling fear in your belly? Tell me more. And supporting them in beginning to see what's there, depending on the age of the child, it depends on how deep we bring this process. If they're in their formative years, that's, enough of why are you feeling that? Okay. And then, it's just building their strength to be able to go deeper in that. If we're in a bit of the later years, we can begin to then say, cool, do you want to play a game with your fear? Okay, so the fear, okay, so I hear that there's fear in your belly about going to your first sleepover with friends. Okay, that makes sense. So are you open to playing a game? Let's let the fear tell us what's it afraid's going to happen. And we can let it just tell us everything that it's afraid of. And we
Mm-hmm.
can just let it go. It's so safe. And go ahead, tell me what's everything that you're feeling you're afraid of. And we let them air all of that out and keep going. And okay, yeah, yeah, I could see why that would be scary. Is there anything else? What's helping is we're letting that energy of the fear kind of spiral out in a safe, contained way so that they can, okay, let's diffuse the energy, just run that out. Then say, okay, amazing. Now, the next part of the game, let's play best case scenario. What could happen that would be really great and really fun? Then they start to say, I get there and actually I'm not afraid. Amazing. And then what? And then I have a lot of fun and then I eat pizza and then I stay up, and we let them go through all of these amazing scenarios so they can look at the reality of a multitude of things can happen. And we let the fear voice what its concerns are inside and
Mm-hmm.
let that get aired out. And then also look at that could happen, but what else could happen on the positive? And then supporting them and saying, okay, now we've seen anything could happen here. Can we agree with fear to focus on the good and know that if anything from what we feel is afraid, you can easily call mommy and daddy or this and that, and we'll come get you and you'll be fine. But we're going to choose to focus on things going really well. Can we all agree on that? And let the little one and the fear make an agreement to focus on it. This brings a space where we don't try to shove fear away and just say, oh, no, there's nothing to be afraid of, just go. But we hold a space for it to be able to actually hear what it's trying to say and then guide them to focus on the positive, knowing that the reality is any of those things could happen. So
Yes.
it's there is a reason to be when we say there's nothing to be afraid of. But maybe there is. So allowing the space of any of those things could happen, but we're going to focus on the positive. And if any of those things were to happen, we will figure it out together and we'll be right there alongside you.
I really love this example because if you if the parents apply this concept and just not one time, more than one time through their life with their children, they will get to the point that they are fearless somehow and they can step out from the bondage that wherever they are and just step out from their comfort zone, step out to be in a freedom zone, just free to choose whatever they want. And this is the point where take them to creativity. And here is the point of it's all responsibility of the parents because really they are drawing and painting the life of their children. So it depends on them. So any single word they are talking, even their thoughts, even their feelings and their actions are just transferring to their children. And that's why they must be aware. And if you ask me what makes me come to this field of coaching, it's my driving point is my kids. And I want to be like a better leader. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm every day I'm learning. I'm just in this podcast, I've learned a lot from you. And every day I'm learning to apply that. And this episode is so amazing for all the parents to really apply those concepts about the intention, the visualization, serving, loving, forgiveness, and overcoming the fears to have that children because those are the future. Those who will be translating your messages, if you want to keep a nice, amazing legacy behind you, is your children. So, what would be your last words or last message, Kelly, to the parents to have this really an amazing community where they can learn, grow, and lead together?
Yeah, it would really be an echo of what you're saying there. I find that the most fulfilling growth and development for a child is done when the parent is doing it alongside them. And really allowing it to be a journey all together
Mhm.
and knowing that yes, there's space where the parent is to support that the little one and learning how to human, how to, hey, let me show you the ropes here, but the child is coming in also as a very powerful teacher as well. And so being able to meet in this middle point of we're all here to continue to learn and grow and develop together, which means that as parents showing up and doing our work, to continue to increase our personal development, our emotional intelligence, our spiritual nature, so that way we can instill that to the child and all grow together is the sweet spot that's really needed more than ever in these times in the state of the world.
I really love that. This is not an easy journey. I just will tell the parents just to enjoy it and just plant those seeds of faith inside of your children because faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Let them understand and understand them at the same time. And this is what will lead them to creativity and freedom. Thank you, Kelly, for this an amazing episode and looking forward to have another one. Thank you.
So much.